Welcome to Sassy, Soulful, and Sensitive, a podcast for us introverts, empaths, and highly sensitive people. I'm your host, Cam Nichols, and together we're going to explore the strengths and struggles that come along with our sensitivity and learn how to trust our intuition and trust our voice. Let's dive in. What's up, buttercups? Hope you're having a great day, great week, great month, great year, 2023. Holy shiznit, we are in May, folks. How the hell did that happen? Well, today is a gloomy day here in Salt Lake City. It's been super hot, like up in the 80s. I think one day we almost got up to 90, and then yesterday it like completely dropped. So now it's a little chilly. I'm back to my winter hoodie, and I'm totally recording this in pajama pants, and I'm just all kinds of warm and comfy. So I hope that you are enjoying this and where we can have this conversation, that you are comfy or doing something that you love, because we should be doing more of what we love. That's what makes life beautiful. Do all the things that we love. But today, we're going to be talking about breaking up with perfectionism. And I don't have a quote for us today because this is kind of a spontaneous recording. I've been putting off recording a new episode for a couple weeks now because I haven't felt like it. And as I've examined that more and more and more, a lot of it has to do with perfectionism, which I know we've talked about on here before, and it probably feels redundant and silly to even talk about. Like, okay, we get it. We know that you have this story about talking and awkward pauses and all that stuff, and like, get over it. But here's the thing. I'm totally projecting that insecurity onto you, and that's not fair to you. And this sure as hell isn't fair to me either. So I've talked about it. I've got coaching on it. I've done a ton of reflection. And so I just kind of want to jump on here and share my experience and talk about breaking up with perfectionism. I've been working on a summit. Unfortunately, I can't present live like I was hoping because we're going to be out of town for Blake's, my husband, his birthday that's coming up. It's called the Shadow Side Leadership Summit, and I'm actually going to be airing the interview on this podcast soon as well, because it is coming up in just a couple of weeks in May. It's called the Shadow Side Leadership Summit because we really want to talk about embracing your shadows to strengthen your light, and really just embracing every single part of you, especially those parts that you don't like, that are holding you back in business and in life. So if you're an entrepreneur, a leader of any kind, whether it's in an organization, you're just a leader of yourself, whatever, highly recommend shadowsideleadershipsummit.com. Go register. Interview coming soon with the founder and the main MC host. But as we've been talking about it and putting things together, I've just really been contemplating this idea of accepting our shadows. And I'm getting ready to teach do an instructing call in the program that I contract with the Life Coach School, on confidence and self-love. And I've really been thinking about just what that looks like. And so much of it comes to just accepting our shadows and accepting these things that we don't like about ourselves, that in the grand scheme of things don't matter. And I don't say that in a way to be dismissive. So for example, one of my shadows is perfectionism. Exactly what we're talking about. Perfectionism for me is also, there's a strength to it. Perfectionism keeps me on point. It keeps me attention to detail. It keeps me as a high performer. It also stops me from doing some work. It also stops me from putting myself out there sometimes. It still stops me from truly embracing and living and being the kind of person that I truly am and that I want to be more of, that I want to show. And really what it comes down to is we have these invisible rules or these laws that we have that govern our lives. It's like, okay, we're in the city of Camland, and one of the stories is you need to be perfect and not be awkward. Just notice how like general that is. It's kind of ridiculous. And this is the tricky part of the brain. I was talking to a colleague about this today, of the brain really wants to get specific, especially if you're working on any type of neuroplasticity, learning on rewiring your brain. So like, just all the kind of work that coaching is and what we do and how I help people. Specifics are important, and the semantics of it are very, very important. And it's like your brain says, I want you to give me a specific. And then there are other times where your brain is like, it can't comprehend a specific. It wants to keep everything generalized. So that invisible law that is governing Camland is that it needs to be perfect. Okay, what needs to be perfect? And learning how to talk back to this law, this thought, is so important, because that's one way to kind of de-escalate your nervous system that helps you get to the point where you can show up, which is what we're doing right now. And so it's like, okay, what needs to be perfect? Like, why is this so important to me that it be perfect? Why am I not allowed to be awkward? Why am I not allowed to embrace that shadow and just be awkward or sassy or bitchy or whatever the hell it is that I am in that moment? Because perfect wants to, just like our society and American history, wants to just kind of whitewash everything and just kind of paint over it like it doesn't exist. But the fact is, it does exist. And this is the difference. This comes into play with confidence, because perfectionism 100% keeps us from living confidently, because perfection does not exist. It doesn't exist in a human being. It doesn't exist in an animal. It doesn't exist even in a machine or a robot or technology. Perfection does not exist. But here we are as humans, obsessed with it. And it's in our language. It's in our culture. Oh my God, you look so perfect. Oh, perfect timing. Oh my gosh, that sounds so perfect. You did perfect. That is in our culture and our verbiage. Like, just for funsies, start paying attention to the word perfect and how often you say it out loud and in your brain, in your head, in your internal monologue. And anytime you read it, bring awareness to the word perfect. You will be surprised at how often it is showing up in your life, and it is subconsciously programming this perfectionism. And we don't even do it on purpose. It's so sad and so frustrating. And all of the things, you'll start to hear it everywhere. You'll start to hear yourself say it. You'll start to see it. Bring awareness to it, because I think you'll be very, very surprised. But if we're trying to be perfect, we can't be confident. We can't be authentic. If we are perfect, we can't be those things. We can't be ourselves. And this is kind of where the difference between confidence versus arrogance come into play. Because confidence is based off of evidence of the past, what you've been able to accomplish. You have confidence you can pour a glass of water. You have confidence that you can drive a car because you've done it before. You learned how and you've done it a ton of times. It's automatic. Self-confidence is future-based. It is believing in yourself when you do not have the evidence. But then we also have to look at arrogance. When I'm working with my clients and myself in my own work, this is something that is really interesting. My personality, the name of this podcast, Sassy. I'm a little sassy, and I can be soulful and sensitive, and those words don't always typically go together. The name of this podcast shows the multifaceted sides of my personality, of being a human and being the human that I am. And so this is the same with confidence and arrogance, because working with my clients and my own work is we're afraid to be confident because we are afraid of looking arrogant. And arrogance, for the definition of our conversation, is thinking that we're better than someone else. But here's the irony of that, even, is that there are things that we are better at than other people. We're not better than them on a human level. This is where your brain wants to get really, it needs to get very, very specific. This is where we can't generalize with this, because I'm better at something than you are, and you are better than me in something else. It's very specific, so we can't even just say arrogance just means you think you're better than someone else, because the truth is you are. It's all about the context. And it's just so interesting because the context of what we bring specifics to or what we generalize, your brain cannot tell the difference. And so you have to learn how to allow the flow and try to bring the context into every situation. When you recognize that you are stuck in a pattern of perfectionism, try to bring some context to it. And this is why questioning and talking to that piece is like, okay, the perfectionism is there. It's trying to protect you from something. You just got to play detective and figure out what that is. And when we do this and we master this skill, mastery is very different than perfect the skill, because we don't perfect skills. It's not a thing that humans can do. When we master the skill of bringing in appropriate context, applying things to certain situations, helping our brain learn the difference between generalizing and the specific, that is what allows us to allow. That sounds so weird saying, but the skill is allowing. When we allow, that's when we bring ease into our lives. And that is so important for us as sensitive people. And me pausing and overthinking this is a sign of the social conditioning that we as sensitive people go through, because I'm like, oh, I don't want to say we as sensitive people, we have it harder. Things are harder in life for us. But on some level, they are. They are, when there's so much stimuli and it's like, okay, we're going to think about something for 3 weeks while some person just thinks about it for an hour. Yeah, that's hard. And I'm not saying that as a victim. I think that's something also that kind of keeps us in this perfectionism mode, is we're afraid of being the victim. We're afraid of being the victim. We're afraid of being arrogant. We're afraid of all of these things. And it's like, how can we embrace them, embrace these shadows, and bring context to it? Talk back to it, rather than trying to shove it in the closet under the stairs like the Dursleys did with Harry Potter in Harry Potter. We don't need to do that. We need to let it out, let it be seen, let it be heard. We just don't want to let it drive. It gets to sit in the back of the car. And when we can allow it to be there and not make it a problem, these fears, these insecurities, these shadow side, this need to be perfect, this drive to be perfect, when we can allow it, it makes life so much easier. We can't, and here's where I fell into the trap, and you probably will recognize this trap as well, is we try to force ourselves to allow. We try to force ease. And force is the exact opposite of allowing, and it's the exact opposite of ease. It's like that energy drain that just, it's a leech. It is a leech, and it just does not work. So we need to understand the context in which we're showing up, in which perfectionism is showing up, when it's showing up, how to talk back to it, learning how to allow it, and really allowing ourselves the freedom and the permission to break up with perfectionism. I've thought so much about this. I'm like, oh my God, I am so over this. I am over these social conditions, the social conditioning. I am ready to break rules. I'm ready to, like, this box that I have put myself in, that society has put me in as well. I'm over it. I'm ready to blow that shit up. It's exhausting. We don't have the time. We don't have the energy. Just like, get some sage, grab your crystals, do some yoga, go camping, do whatever the hell it is you have to do. But break the box. Breaking up with perfectionism is what we need to do in order to be our authentic, confident selves. And it's about time we do it, because the world needs more people like us. I can feel myself wanting to get preachy and on soapbox, so I'll try to keep it really short because I have to say it. The world needs people like you. People in your life have value in what you say, and it's still there even when you can't see it. And your job is to learn how to see it so you can then do it with intention when in the appropriate context. Like, you have the power to affect change within yourself, within others, within your community, society. But we have to break up with perfectionism first and really learn how to embrace these shadows. I would love to hear what your takeaways from today's episode are. I would love to honestly just hear how you're doing. It's kind of a weird year, and the world keeps on moving, and sometimes it just feels real fast, and I want to know how you're doing. How are you holding up? How can I help support you? Because that's what I'm here to do. My purpose is to help support other people, reflect back to them, and help them build the skills and the knowledge of themselves to move through the world easier, to find your voice, find you. So please let me know how you're doing, and I want to support you in any way that I possibly can. All right, my friends, that is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for listening. And as always, remember, shining bright gives others permission to shine as well. Take care. Hey, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. If you want to learn how to find your voice and lean in more to the powerful force of nature that you know exists within you, head on over to coachwithcam.com and take the What Element Are You quiz. You'll discover how to align with your secret strength that you perceive as a weakness so you can break the cycle of doubt and step into your badassery. And if you enjoyed the show, make sure to follow, rate, and review it on your favorite podcast platform, and share it with a friend or family member who you want to connect with on a deeper level. You'll be helping other sensitive folks like yourself and like me find and join our amazing community. So let's connect and support each other on this incredible journey.